Hello, everyone. Welcome. Sorry about the wait. We've just been waiting on a few speakers, and yeah, but I just want to welcome everybody to the Italian Fellows Festival. My name is Emma Land. I am the head of fellowship engagement here at the RSA. I just wanted to quickly talk about the RSA for those who aren't too familiar with the RSA or what we're about. We're a 270-year-old social change organisation, and our fellows are all the people who are committed to our mission to enable better futures. And at our core, we're a community. We're a community of change makers, innovators all across the globe. And our fellowship is inclusive of community of people with unique lived-in experiences who really strive to bring that positive social change to people, places, and planet. So just to put it into perspective, our community, or as we call them, our fellows, our fellowship, support and they make possible the work of the RSA. And in turn, they have access to a range of ways that they can be better informed, better connected with other fellows across the world, work together to create better futures. And this can range from attending award-winning events to networking with other fellows on our online community platforms called Circle, in order to kind of connect and collaborate with other change makers. And this Fellows Festival is just part of our annual calendar that we like to do every year to celebrate and to connect with fellows across the globe. As a social organisation, we believe in a world that is resilient, rebalanced and regenerative, and where everyone can fulfill their true potential. Our fellows are so integral, and they are integral to this mission and to this vision of the RSA. And we've been turning world leaders' ideas into world-changing action for 270 years. Our research and innovation has changed the hearts and minds of generations of people, but central to all of our work and our vision for the future are our mission-aligned fellows, such as Neil, who's chairing today's session. But I'm really excited to have the Fellow Festival hosted in Italy tonight. This year does mark the 270th anniversary of the RSA, and we will be celebrating throughout the year all the magnificent work that our fellows have done, the change that they're making, and all of the future plans that they have. So it's without further ado that I'd like to introduce you to your host for this evening, Neil Kinnock, who is an RSA fellow and Neil Pinnock, not Kinnock. That's so apologetic.
I answer to most things. It's okay.
Yeah. But you know, Neil is a true example of how our wonderful community of change makers are spread across the world and help to bring lots of other fellows and also other communities together. So thank you, Neil. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome to everybody. We're just waiting for a couple of other speakers to join. I think one's coming in now. This event started as a result of something we did last year. We presented the first fellow event from Italy to talk about the challenges of language and how language, especially English, can be used to develop economic and personal gains. And we had a very interesting and lively discussion last year. And as a result of that, we wanted to continue the theme this year. I don't know if everybody knows, but the general theme this year is courage. And so, again, we wanted to use the concept of language and for people to explain or to think about the courage that's necessary to learn and speak a language that's not mother tongue for the purpose of their business or their personal life and their personal development. And what we've got this evening is a number of our colleagues, some of my colleagues and Nick's colleagues who have gone through or are going through the process of learning English to help them in their prospective job or futures. Okay, so what I want to do really is ask each of them to speak for a little bit, just to tell us about their story and why learning English or learning a language is so important for their career, for their development, for their company's development, and then obviously to see whether that invokes a discussion between people about how we can possibly think about the challenges and how we overcome the challenges of learning a language. Okay. Very quickly from me, I've been based in Italy for 5.5 years. I initially set up a teaching establishment here, just teaching English. I then, after a year, realised that there's such a demand for language learning to help people, help university students, help companies. With my colleague Nick, who's also on the call, we created a company really to support companies and to support people in their personal development. So we're not a traditional language school. I come from a finance and an education background. So approaching it very much the way, how can we help companies, how can we help businesses develop in a changing world? Italy is going through a lot of changes at the moment, and certainly since COVID, a lot more challenges, and most of the companies and the factories are now having to look outside of Italy to grow. Historically, there was sufficient trade with inside Italy for a lot of companies to support. Now that's not the case so much. So again, suddenly we see a huge upsurge in the necessity to learn English or to learn different languages to support people's business. Okay, so where shall I start? Paolo Paccapelo, can you let us know your story? Why is English so important to you?
Hi everyone, sorry if I can call from a car, but I just landed in Sardinia. And my name is Paolo. I'm 26 years old and I come from Porto Sant'Elpidio in Marche. And I'm here today to share with you my personal experience with the English. And it's a really big journey. And I found a really big professional and personal growth. For me, English is always been a weakness. Was a weakness. I always felt like a deficit compared to those people who mastered the English easily instead of me. And this sense of inferiority often prevent me like to stop my determination and the courage. After graduating in October 2022, I found myself, I found the way and like a mental space to reflect my future ambitions. And from that, I fully understood that the importance of English in a modern world is important for my personal goals and professional goals. I realized that I had not to ignore this aspect for my education, for my career. So I began to look for some solutions, and I start to exploring some options to take. And I started with the NEC lessons with Neil. And this was so significant for me because I had like a really big intensive immersion in English, and that allowed to me in June 2023 to achieve IELTS certification with the B2 level. My journey doesn't stop there, didn't stop there. So in July of the last year, I made a decision to spend 5 months in the United States, in the city of San Francisco, and was a really extraordinary and handsome experience, a total immersion in American language, culture, and more. And I was there with an international school where I had the opportunity to explore and interact with students from around the world. So I took there even an internship in San Francisco in a non-profit organization that they work in social issues and environmental issues and sustainability. And these months abroad were a really huge period and have some period for my personal and professional growth, and I learned how to communicate better in English and to become even and open to different cultures and perspective of the world. When I came back 1 week ago, I was able to reflect about this experience, and I had the opportunity to apply for a new opportunity for my career. So I received a call from an Italian company that was interested of my profile, my international profile, for an export position. And this morning I had the last interview that hopefully will be like my future job. And this is a tangible sign that the commitment, the dedication for learn another language and for make experience bear fruits. So in conclusion, I would like to say that studying a new language is much more than just acquiring linguistic skills. And it's a journey of personal discovery, the way for that allow people to open doors, explore new horizons, and connect with the world that you cannot, with the world that we once believe impossible. And that's all. Thank you for listening, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you. I would like to very much to introduce Professor Paolo Sabbatini, who has just joined us. Professor Sabbatini works for the Italian Foreign Office. He is a senior ambassador. He has worked as a cultural ambassador and ambassador in numerous countries around the world, and is incredibly knowledgeable on language, on culture, and how to integrate these things into business. I wonder whether you'd like to say a few words, Paolo.
So, good evening to everyone. I am very pleased to talk to you. And thank you, Neil, for such a prestigious and grand introduction. I am a worker, basically. So I have been dealing with China for most of my career. And I learned from Chinese the fact that one is always online, always available, round the clock and every day of the year. And most of the communications are in a vehicular language, such as English in general. I do speak Chinese. I have learned Urdu. I have learned practically like Winkelmann. I try to learn the language in every country I was posted in. Some of these languages have long vanished from my memory, such as Urdu, for example. But English, by far and large, is the universal language. It is interesting because in my study of languages, I learned there is a technique, a memory technique. And English, for instance, is a good base for the second, third, fourth, fifth language. And what I find incredible is that every time I listen to a new language, I try to connect, I try to grasp the basic. I learned how to memorize the 1,000 words necessary to establish a first conversation, and all the others come like the beads of a necklace. And English has this advantage, is a very, talking to the level of language necessary for interaction, also on a diplomatic level. English gives the advantage to be simple, very simple. The grammar is simple for a basic approach. And this fact has accompanied me all through my life. Now, I am Italian, and I made classical studies. I studied Latin and Greek. And I think that the forma mentis, I mean, the general structure of the mechanism of learning languages has been given by all means by Latin, the methodology, the memory techniques. But once you have established in your mind, one has established in his or her mind a basic structure, then learning languages is much less difficult than approaching a heteroclite or very difficult language such as Chinese or Arabic, two languages which I have studied as well. Now, several issues come into my mind. Necessity to understand someone else's culture, someone else's way of thinking. This is especially interesting and especially important in approaching someone like Chinese, whose mental process, whose logic is completely different from our logic. So the challenge is how to understand not only the meaning of the single word, but how to introduce the other person to understand which one is your logical process. And doing so, one has to study the culture of the other person. I am following the great example of a person coming from my same region, Marche in Italy. I don't know if you know, I think that at least 2 or 3 of us are from Marche region. I see Nicolò and also, of course, the Paolo Paccapelo. So the great cultural mediator between East and West was a Jesuit whom you probably know. His name was Matteo Ricci, and he was born in Macerata, which is few kilometers away from the place we live. And he vehemently recommended that every step in learning a new language should begin with loving the other. I mean, this is the basic of everything. If you hate one person, and of course you cannot connect with that person, and try to understand what are the cultural values of the other person. And this has accompanied me all through my 42 years of international career. And I am not afraid, I am not ashamed to demonstrate to others that I am always willing to learn, and my humility extends to the fact that perhaps the level of my foreign languages is uneven. For example, I am perfectly professional in French, like a Frenchman. I have studied French culture. I have several diplomas in French universities. And due to the fact that I know what it means to be professional in one language, I can myself be self-critical about the knowledge of my other languages. But once you possess the minimal knowledge, as I said, 1,000, 2,000 words in every language, then you can start a conversation. And especially if you want to understand, if you want to be understood, then the path is open, and one can further perfectionate his own level. If you have any specific question, I would be glad to answer. Basically, as I said, I have my own tricks to understand, to speak a to learn a foreign language. So I'm ready to share with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paolo. Thank you. Andrea is at the opposite end of his English learning career compared to Paolo, in the sense that Andrea has been learning for maybe a couple of years. And when we're talking about the courage of learning a language, I think Andrea is one of the people that epitomizes that, because I know it's something that he doesn't find very easy. When I suggested to him that he spoke today, his first reaction was to panic. then to say no, and then I've encouraged him to do it. So, Andrea, tell us a little bit about your background.
Good evening to everybody. Thank you, Neil, for the introduction. I'm Andrea. I'm living in the center of Italy. I'm working in one of the most bigful and important luxury brand in the world as a head of financial controller. Today I would like to speak about the importance of English in work life. I think I focus in one of three my pillar of my work, and how I explain how this language helped me in my work. For example, at the beginning, in the interview, in the old job interview, the human resource try to understand your level of English, because now it's not important if you go in a small or big company, because every company have a lot of transaction for the other country. Indeed, in my situation, the English language it is really important, because my company have a lot of branch around the world. For example, the English helped me each month, because in the first decades of the months I sent to the headquarters the P&L, and I try to explain and speak about what's happening these months, and is it feels with the budget, because I drop at the beginning of the year the budget, and for example, each quarterly I send the forecast, and I speak if this forecast leads the budget, and leads or not, and I try to explain what's happened, why, and where are these alignment. Another important process is the intercompany process, when each branch in the world send our statement, the credit and debit position, and we try to match the all of transaction all together. I think English can help to improve your position, for example, and it's really important for the social skills, because for example, in my case, each year, I think 2 or 3 times of year, the company organize a important meeting, and if you know this language, you can enjoy all together. It's fantastic. It's they are the days really beautiful, for me. And I think for me it was really difficult to try to explain and speak with the other people in this language, but I think the time helped me, and the all of people have the same problem of mine, will fight it and try to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrea. And I think Lucia is in a very similar sort of situation. That Lucia works in a company in our region as well, and has experienced the situation where her companies had to expand into different countries. So suddenly English becomes the common language. Is that correct, Lucia?
More or less. I can try to become my first language, but I don't know. Nice to meet you to everyone. My name is Lucia, and we have the company, me and my family, in Marche, specifically in Recanati. I start to learn English for the first time, of course, in school, but it's not good for me to start to speak English. So I met for the first time Neil a lot of years ago, more or less. And this helped me to grow up in my company, to start the collaboration in the Europe, and also in the other country in the world. And this type of opportunity, when you start to speak English, of course that I'm not speak very well, but I can start to understand and speak with the people around the world, to increase our job and our experience. And of course this is important, and this is why I can understand the difference that you can learn in the school in Italy, and what meaning to learn English and speak, because this is the difference for our life in Italy. I don't know, Neil, if I can
Absolutely.
explain
No, thank you.
what I want to do. And nothing. I of course that English is not our language, and every day you need to speak and to practice to grow up your vocabulary, your everything. You need to stay in contact with the whole world.
Okay.
No,
thank you. Thank you. I just want to ask one more person to speak, then we'll see if we get any questions, or we can open the discussion a little bit more. And Nick, can you just tell me a little bit about your story?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nicolò Permegiani. I'm 26 years old, and I'm the director of NECT International Language Support. I'm also a fellow of the RSA, and since November 2022, I have been working as a transformation excellence analyst at Accenture in Milan. As Professor Paolo Sabbatini, Andrea, and Paolo previously said, English has become fundamental for our interconnected world. But today, I would like to focus on the fear of learning English, the fear of, personally, of stumbling over words, fear of mispronunciation, or embarrassment. We have all felt it. In fact, learning a new language can be challenging and scary, but we needed to find a way to overcome this fear. I'm still embarrassed when I speak English in public, especially in front of all mother tongue speakers. But I would like to share with you 2 or 3 pills that help me to fight this fear. At first, I shifted my mindset. So instead of viewing English as an obstacle, now I see it as an opportunity, in generally a new language, because it can open a lot of doors. I think also to the people that you connect with, to the stories you share, and the knowledge you gain speaking with different people from different parts of the world. So I advise you to shift your mindset from fear to curiosity. And such in a lot of stuff, we should start small and dream big, in the sense that we should try to break down the language into manageable bits or manageable chunks. For example, learning a new word day by day, listening to English music, or watching English movies, and so on. And the last, but not least, maybe the most important, is practice, practice, and practice. Especially for me, worked a lot. You should exploit all the occasion to engage in a conversation, even if they are awkward at first. Join a language exchange group, find a language partner, or practice with the mirror if you have no other chances. But what I want to say is that fear shouldn't be our enemy, but should be seen as a catalyst, because it helps us to conquer and to fight the unknown. So let's embrace the English, and let's make it be our companion on this journey.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Thank you. Okay, so Brian or Antonio, do you have any comments or any questions for us?
Are you referring to Antonio as me, or is there another Antonio?
No, yourself, absolutely.
Oh, myself. Yeah. Okay. No. I mean, actually, I'm dialing in from the UK. I'm a fellow of the RSA here in London, and for me, the language is less of a barrier in terms of listening to the experience and the challenges of the people that have been speaking so far. I'm dialing in out of personal curiosity as an Italian native living in the UK. I'm happy to see that there is an RSA chapter also in Italy, because we are spending a lot of time there as well. So that's something that I find quite refreshing and encouraging. And I think it's all the comments that the speakers have made so far, they are extremely relevant. And looking at what Nat said, yes, it's practicing. Get out there, don't be afraid, and just be bold. We live in an age of communication, but we're not actually communicating well with each other. So I think language is extremely important. I'm also partially in education, and I can clearly see that not speaking languages, I'm impressed with Paolo speaking so many languages, and obviously that brings him forward in his personal and professional advancement, which is what it is. I'm also multilingual myself, and if you can't master the language in wherever place you are, it's just you're shutting yourself out of society and the community. And I think that's why it's important to at least speak some of the language of the locals, and or speak a language that is generally spoken and understood also by other people in the community, so you're not isolating yourself, which I think today is potentially a problem not to underestimate. Isolation and loneliness, and the more you master the language, the better integrated you are, and the more you can advance personally and professionally.
No,
so that's just my 2 cents. I encourage everyone, and I'm very happy to hear these stories. Yeah. It's very, very inspiring.
And I think one thing that's certainly from my experience in Italy is breaking down that barrier of problems that people may have had during their school years, because I think sometimes the teaching of language is not easy. And I think certainly when you're trying to teach, say, English from in Italian schools, it's not something that that comes naturally. And certainly a lot of people tell me the stories that they had problems when they're at school, which almost discouraged them. And then, as we're seeing now, we're getting a lot of people that are wanting to learn at different ages. So I think now it's not about just learning at school; it's about learning on the job. And as Nick say, practicing all the time. And as Andrea's found, suddenly, and Lucia, suddenly you're in environments where if you don't learn the language, it becomes a barrier. So it's finding ways of achieving that in a as pleasant way as possible. So, okay. Do you have any thoughts, Brian?
Yes, quite. It's a very interesting discussion. I'm a fellow of the RSA, and I had no idea sort of what I was going to be sort of hearing today, other than it was to do with language and language learning and Italy. I speak 3 languages, sort of 3.5. And I really sympathize with them. I think it was Nick who was talking about the embarrassment of speaking a language in front of other fluent speakers. I remember that in my teenage years. I learned French as my second language after English, and lived in Paris for several years. And they are cruel there. And then when I moved to Italy, it was a delight, because people were encouraging and helpful and wanted to hear my attempts at Italian, and it was such a contrast. But I still get that embarrassment these days when I speak French to anyone who's a native French speaker. So what I'm also intrigued about is you're all talking about the experience of learning for professional reasons, and presumably it's quite late in life. And well, quite late in life, as in you weren't brought up bilingually, or you by the sound of it, most of you didn't feel that attached to language learning at school. So there's what comes to mind is all sorts of research about the best ages to learn languages and how language acquisition is acquired, and once you have a second language, how much easier it is to then learn others. I wonder where, other than talking about your own experiences, where are you thinking of taking this to? What's in the context of sort of the RSA Fellows Festival? Are you trying to open up a sort of greater a network of linguists, people interested in language matters, or I could see a potential for sort of trying to do something similar to the RSA's work in schools in the UK, where they run?
No, absolutely, because here in Italy we're looking at trying to develop the knowledge and the work of the RSA in Italy through different mechanisms. There are not, to my knowledge, not that many active fellows of the RSA in Italy that are engaging in organising different events. So this is the second one that we've organised, and Professor Paolo Sabbatini and Lucia was on the call that we did last year talking about this, and we, not just in the call, but as a result of the work we were doing, generated a lot of interest, which is why we're looking at doing it again this year. And it would be a project that we would want to try and develop, and as you say, look at integrating language more fully into different environments, be that in schools or in universities or in the workplace, because I think there's room for a valued discussion about how we should learn and how we should use language. And I think sometimes that discussion is the thing that's missed. And suddenly you have people, and I'm going to use Andrea as an example, where suddenly he has to learn English for the job. And suddenly you're almost on the back foot slightly because you're learning it at the wrong time with the wrong motivation. And what I want to try and do is to encourage learning for the right motivation.
And your emphasis is very much on learning English. I'm sorry if I interrupted. And are you looking at other languages, or is this is it just an English focus? And the reason why I'm asking that is because for us English people who other than people like me who do speak other languages, very often that becomes an excuse for them to do nothing, and just sort of presume that they have the language and that's it, and they're in a privileged position, which surprises me enough.
Essentially, in answer to your question, no, it's not just English, but certainly what we're finding is that as companies in our region are developing and are growing, the common language tends to be English. So I'm certainly not focusing purely on English as an English person. It's the need, and people are coming to me with the necessity to learn the language for their work. And as you probably know, a lot of the interview process now, the first interview that you have with HR of the company is typically in English, and often the whole interview process is in English as well. So there's
So I think that from a professional point of view, I am a cultural mediator, and there is something just to strengthen what you say. English is, you cannot avoid English. English comes around the world. And even when I do inter-academic collaborations or twinning arrangements, there is no other way. English is, in the world, the common language. Now, when you say it is important, the focus of today's conversation is courage. Courage is a necessity, as Nicolò was saying. I mean, there are no other option. I am telling you, I hope I'm not annoying you. When I was elementary school student, and many years ago, I am sure that I am the eldest of you all. In Porto Sant'Elpidio, the town, my hometown, there was no English language course. So the elementary school and even the intermediate school only had French. And when I went to the high school, I was very proud of my French, but the high school was in a major town. Everybody had studied English. So it was the Beatles' time. It was the late 60s. And I was discussing with a very simpatico friend of a classmate. They say, oh, do you know the Beatles? He was telling me, oh, yes, I have read something about them. And I am very fond of a song whose title is Come Toggeter. And then the other person was, of course, very puzzled. He said, what does it mean, come toggeter? Yeah, come me, come te, because come in Italian means like the person. So when the other friend was, this is in 68, 69, was demonstrating to me my inferiority because I had made a gigantic mistake. I was misled by some similarities with other Italian words. Then the question of courage comes in. I started listening to the Beatles songs, and at that time it was difficult to find an English teacher, and slowly I went into English as a professional language. When you refer to courage comes when you realize that you have something to do mandatorily, such as the learning of English. And when Brian was saying, of course, for English native speaker, it's easy, and maybe there is a tendency to pay attention to something else and not learning another language. I think that this does not exist anymore in the world, because everybody in the world does speak English as a general communicating way as a way to communicate with others, and their own language or some other language. What, in my opinion, where courage comes is, in my opinion, not the very beginning of learning English or another language. Comes from trying to reach an adequate level or a semi-professional or professional level. This is a real courage, in my opinion, because one needs to overcome the simplicity and the facility and the easiness to stay in the comfort zone where he or she is. But actually, cultural communication is also made on non-verbal behavior, of course, but is very much made of explanation why the person and how the person understands what the others say and the logical process. Sorry, I've been a little bit too long, but come toggete, come together.
No, thank you, Paolo. Thank you. In answer to your question, Brian, one of the things they would like to do is develop this as a concept and develop the conversation. And unfortunately, Emma had to leave us, but Emma did say if it's something you would like to be involved with in the future, to email Emma at the RSA, and we will try and organise this as a semi-regular discussion point. If we can do something like this, not just for Fellows Week, but if we can make it, once every 2 or 3 months, to have a discussion about how we can develop and to exchange ideas, I think that would be incredibly useful as a concept.
I'd definitely be interested in that, but I worry slightly that from my point of view, it's more of a fascination, and I don't have the sort of the professional perspective that you all take, and I'm if you're willing to sort of have me as part of the discussion on that basis, then
absolutely, yeah. Yeah. No, it's about for me, it's about an exchange of ideas, and it's about how we can develop the language and how we can actively assist people in developing their language skills, which for me is incredibly important.
Also, Professor Sabbatini doesn't have a fear of speaking in public in any kind of languages, but easier to understand what it means.
Absolutely.
Neil, when you say the RSA, I mean, what's the intention of the RSA? I mean, looking at what the RSA does here in the UK, right? And obviously also in connection with the Design for Life Awards and the Student Design Awards and all these kind of things. Are you trying to get more down that route, or just as a general, maybe as Paolo said, like a cultural route and bringing these two cultures together? Because I think there's much more to it.
I think so. For me, it's
the RSA actually does and can do, and I was very pleasantly surprised that there is an Italian chapter. I was not aware of it, and because we are spending a lot of time also back in Italy, obviously, and the work we are doing with the RSA here, being in the judges panel of the Student Design Awards, and we are speaking with Andy here about supporting the RSA in the Design for Life Awards, and speaking about investments and stuff like this. So and I think there is a fairly large ecosystem in Italy as well, especially around the historic area of what the RSA is known for here in the UK and in the and you know, in some of the more active chapters, let's call it this way,
Sure.
around sustainability and, you know, cultural development, individual development, personal development, professional development. I think there is a wider scope of how things could be done, and language clearly is the first, it's probably the first thing where you have to start, otherwise you can't communicate with the people.
Sure. No, it was very interesting because last year when we had this same discussion, we had a number of people that joined the discussion who said it was the first time they had engaged with the RSA. And these were people from the UK and from Italy. And certainly I saw an opportunity where we could link the work of the RSA with the cultural and language development necessity and opportunities here in Italy. So something I'm looking at doing is developing the fellowship network within Italy, not necessarily specifically for the design awards, but to embrace education, to embrace language learning, and also the reasons for doing that, because it's such an important and integral part of certainly our region within Italy in Marche. Language is so important now, and it's been a neglected area in the past. And I know, you know, Paolo is such an advocate of both language and culture and treating them as a connection rather than as being something that's separate. And this is certainly what I'm trying to do and to develop. And you know, bit by bit, we are. I'm suggesting various things to the RSA that we can do, and to set up a stronger regional hub here in Italy that we can all feed into.
Yeah. Can I just ask? You said is the RSA stationed in the Marche?
No, I'm in Marche.
Okay.
and I've been trying to push the RSA in Italy from our.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, it's not just in Marche.
Is there like a formal structure in Italy? Like, is there an RSA house type of situation in
This is what I'm negotiating with at the moment to try and establish. So I'm trying to do exactly that. So we have an RSA hub in Italy, which we can all feed into. So this is something that I'm speaking with colleagues at the RSA in London about, and I know as we enter the new financial year in the UK, there are various different new schemes and opportunities that are available to us. So that's something that I'm exploring with Emma, who was at the start of the call.
Yeah. Can I add something? Sorry to interrupt you, Antonio. Perhaps it would be easier if we establish a network even before having the formal headquarters. So I was thinking, with nowadays technology, for example, we can have a group chat. I mean, there are many people who are already on group chat, and it can be a nuisance. But from a cultural point of view, even a Instagram profile, so we can feed events or our discussion, because we all know the psalm when they say, if God does not build the town beforehand, in vain men put stone over stone. So we have to begin with a community, and then maybe the headquarters and the physical presence will come. Sorry to take again.
No, I fully agree with you, Paolo. That's why I was trying to scope out what Neil is doing, you know, because I fully agree. I mean, with today's technology, you can sit anywhere, you know, and you know, be totally decentralized. I think it's depending what Neil has in mind and what the RSA from here wants him to achieve. It might be good to have like a central hub where people can congregate and come and exchange, and similar to what we have here in London, right, with the RSA. But you know,
this is something I'm trying. I promise.
Yeah. No. I mean, it was just out of curiosity, not that it does disqualify any of the work, because as I said, I work from here in the UK, and I speak with some you know, of the sustainability aspects and the entrepreneurial capacity building. So for us, it's not so much the language, but it's more like helping entrepreneurs to be aligned, and businesses and startups and young adults to be aligned with the mandate and the mission of the RSA, which is all around sustainability, regenerative economy. And some of you might actually be familiar with the Economia di Francesco, which is in Assisi, you know, and so we work with those institutions as well. And I've been trying actually to sell the RSA approach to the Economia of Francesco, because it's very aligned, right? You need to speak with people that actually understand and get what the RSA is doing since more than 270 years. It's probably the oldest institution that speaks about sustainability and social inclusion and these kind of things, which are themes that are extremely important nowadays. And Italy, on the other side, we work a lot also with the Italian embassy here in the UK and trying to combine these two ecosystems. So actually tomorrow I'm just attending another event by the Italian embassy, bringing Italian and UK businesses together. And I always think that there is so much more that even the RSA here in the UK, and that's what we're discussing with Andy, right? And can do. Obviously, as an Italian, my heart is always with Italy, right? So I'm always looking at the Italian side first and try to bring that home in a way. And yeah, so I'm very pleased that, you know, I'm happy, let's say, to try and contribute.
Absolutely.
As a fellow, and you know, basically navigating the both worlds.
Okay, that's great. I have to go because I have another meeting myself. But I just want to say thank you ever so much for the speakers that I invited to come and speak this evening. I think it's a really important topic. I think it's something that we should explore going forward. And certainly I'll be speaking with with Emma in the RSA to see how we can coordinate a more regular discussion, because I think this topic is so valuable. So thank you ever so much for joining on behalf of the RSA, and I hope you have a good evening, and I hope to speak with you all very soon.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
very much.
Buona serata a tutti, ciao ragazzi.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Good evening.